I have made $503,829 in profit off YouTube this year alone, and we still have a month left in the year, and I started a month late, and a lot of that is MRR. So in this video, I'm going to show you my exact setup. I'm going to walk through all of my equipment, and I'm even going to show you guys my production process from start to finish. We're going to cover lighting, cameras, lenses, microphones, recording software, my production flow, a few AI post-production tools that I use during my productions, how I edit my thumbnails, how I post my videos to YouTube. Then I'm also going to cover 4 budget setups valued at $150, $460, $906, and $1,506. So regardless of the level of budget, you guys are going to have everything you need in order to get out there and crush it on YouTube. If that sounds like something you guys want to learn how to do for yourselves, stay tuned and let's get into it. First thing I want to do in this clip is cover some common misconceptions I see thrown around YouTube all the time. And we're going to tackle these one by one. But the first is that your production value doesn't matter. The truth is your production value actually does matter. It matters quite a bit. Whoop-de-frickin-do, this is a video all about how to maximize your production value. So you may think that I'm being biased here, but the truth is, like if you took 2 channels, hypothetically, and the first channel had awesome content quality and had really shitty production value, and the other channel had awesome content quality and really good production value, which one do you think would grow faster? Obviously the one that had great content and great production value, right? So it's not that you need good production value in order to make growth happen on YouTube, but it's like a multiplying factor. Would you guys rather grow at like 1x speed or would you rather grow at 5x speed? I know I would much rather grow at 5x speed, and that's why I've taken a little bit of time and energy just to make sure that I got the 80-20 of my production value. So that's number one. The second is that your setup has to be expensive. No, your setup does not actually have to be expensive. You basically just need a couple of key things in order to make content quality seem well. I'm going to cover them all in a second. I'm going to show you guys exactly what I personally use. But you know, it's things like lighting, it's things like background blur, it's things like your audio quality and how to process it. So you don't actually have to make a large capital investment right off the bat. I find you do typically have to make some sort of investment to get the ball rolling, but if anything, that investment's probably like 3 or 4 times smaller than you probably think. And the last big misconception is that you should just like max out quality, right? People tend to think it's one or the other. Either you don't give a shit about quality at all, or you go 100% balls to the wall in quality and, you know, maybe sacrifice some actual content as a result of that. Well, you don't actually have to do that. There is a sweet spot between the quality of your videos and then the ease of use on your end, like the amount of bullshit you have to deal with like your setup and all the various lights and all the monitors and all that stuff. And then like the way that your videos are perceived by viewers on YouTube. And, you know, technically in my case, I could eke out another 20% of my content quality if I really wanted to, but that'd be wringing like a towel until there's basically nothing left. And it's not an effective use of my time. It's a better use of my time at this point just to continue producing as many YouTube videos as humanly possible. So my content quality, I'd consider the 80-20. It's sufficiently high quality that I pattern match really successful YouTubers. And there's still a couple of rough edges here or there, but it's not a big deal, right? The point I'm making is my content quality doesn't get in the way of the productions that I make. And that's what's important. It's also convenient enough that I could just take my kit with me, and I often do, and it still looks better than most, which I think is important, especially if you live like a travel heavy lifestyle like I do. All right, let's actually dive into my exact setup. What I'm going to do in order to make this simple and as easy for both of us as humanly possible is I'm going to record a video live, kind of first person view from my iPhone, and then I'm just going to show you guys what it looks like as I pan around. And then after that, we're going to cover just some general principles about lighting, and then I'm going to cover my actual exact setup so you guys have the same products I do. You guys can just copy and paste, replicate it as necessary. So let's zoom into this puppy. I should have now connected both of these, so you're probably going to be looking through my iPhone. On the left-hand side, we have a big key light. This is a giant softbox, as well as my bubbly, but more importantly, a giant softbox which produces the majority of the light in the video. If you guys look at me right now, you notice how, just looking down the center line, the left half of my face is substantially brighter than the right half of my face. The reason for that is because of this key light. The key light is like sort of the key focus of the shoot. And so, you know, if I could quantify this, if there's like 100% of all the light available, 70, maybe 80% of it is over here. And then if we look on the right-hand side, you see that I have a much smaller light over there. This one's called a fill light. And this is very similar in nature to the key light. Like you don't actually need that to be way smaller. You could just like get another one of these puppies and then just like, I don't know, make it really far away or something. But the purpose of this is to fill in that other half of my face, right? And to make that a little bit brighter so that there's dynamic contrast, but you can still technically see both sides. So, you know, this is a bunch of fancy terms in photography and videography, 2-point, 3-point lighting, whatever. But if I turn this off, you guys see how now there's just a little bit too much contrast in my face, probably pretty dark, looks very moody. You can absolutely get away with this. You don't need to have both. But in my case, I've just found that, people tend to respond better to the videos. I like the look of it a little bit more when I have both the key light and then the fill light. So that's more or less the lighting setup. In general, I have a rule here, and that's just you need some sort of light at your face. Don't make the mistake that I see a lot of novice videographer or YouTubers or whatever you want to call them do, which is like they'll have a really cool background. Maybe they'll be like some floor to ceiling, really sexy apartment or something, and they'll think, my God, I need to put that in the frame. Everybody needs to see my really cool, sexy background. But the issue there is the background has a lot of light coming in, right? And so a lot of the time people shoot against windows. If you shoot against windows, all of the light that's coming in is coming from behind you. So none of it is actually bouncing off your face and going into the camera. All of it is just like shooting past you, meaning your face will actually look really dark and kind of blown out and really wishy-washy. So one of the simplest and strongest levers that you could pull in order to make your content quality substantially higher is just get any sort of light, ideally a soft light, and just point it at, about a 60-degree angle or so to your face. Even if you don't have both the key and the fill light, that's okay. Like having one of these was just going to brighten you up to the point where people could still see you. There's a fair amount of detail and so on and so forth. Now, in terms of my specific setup, as I mentioned, I have that softbox small fill. I'm just going to click on both links here. Let's do the fill light first. So this is the fill light that I bought. I do all of my purchases in Canadian dollars because I'm Canadian. Thank you, Great White North. But this is the one that I bought right over here. It's a 2-pack LED video light kit from this brand, Nice VD. I imagine a lot of these are just straight shipped from China. I know there's like several dozen light brands that I think are all owned by the same Chinese conglomerate, and they just like change the names to take up more real estate. Good strategy. I totally do the same thing. But as you guys can see, it comes with like a little stand, which is pretty nice. Also comes with a place that you could put your phone as well. I didn't even know that, actually. Oh yeah, looks like there is one. Very cool. And then you have some buttons that you can click to change the color of the light and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's where I got my fill light, $67.99 Canadian with a 10% coupon. I didn't even realize it's a 10% coupon, but it looks like there is. That's sick. And then I also bought my softbox from this link here. Granted, this one says it's currently unavailable. I think I actually had to order this one from America, and then it had to like come through or something. So it's actually more expensive. I bet you if you just typed softbox. Yeah, softbox lighting kit. Probably get something really cheap nowadays. Look, so you can get one for $49.99 Canadian dollars, and that's from the same brand, Nice VD. If you do the math on that, it's actually even cheaper than the money that I spent on it because I bought two, right? So collectively, you could probably get this for like 50 or 60 bucks USD. But anyway, we'll go with the 8428 just for the purposes of this demonstration. Okay, great. So that's the lighting, super simple and straightforward. Basically just position big softbox on your left and then some sort of smaller fill light on your right. The variety of things you can do for the fill light, like you could throw in like a diffuser or some sort of reflector or whatever. I'm not going to get into any of that. This is just the simplest way for novice videographers or novice YouTubers to understand what's going on. So we're just going to stick with that. Okay, next up is the camera. So let me actually run you guys through what the camera looks like in reality. I got my iPhone over here. I'm just going to zoom in a bit because I don't want to leave because my microphone is in front of me. But that is a Sony a6500. It's a pretty good camera, all things considered. I think it was like one of the better ones like 8 or 9 years ago. Now it's definitely like in a mid-tier. I haven't needed to change this though because this does everything that I want. And yeah, new cameras are pretty expensive. So in addition, I also have a lens there, which I'll cover in a second, but it's called the Sigma 30mm f1.4. Pretty solid lens, all things considered. I really like it. But you need to make sure if you buy that one that like it connects with the camera. What an unfortunate thing I've come to realize is that different cameras, can accept different lenses. So you just need to make sure that the mount on the lens is the same as the mount on the camera. The general rule of thumb here is, you need to have some sort of DSLR or mirrorless if you really want to amp up your production quality. Like your iPhone or your mobile phone, the sensor on it just isn't big enough to capture and collect all of the light necessary in order to illuminate the subject fully, get a lot of detail, get cool things in the background like blur and so on and so forth. So you need a DSLR or some sort of mirrorless. There are a variety of budget options, which I'm going to go through. My Sony a6500 was definitely on the cheaper end. The reason why is because I bought this used from Craigslist for 650 Canadian dollars 6 years ago. I brought cash. I met the guy at a Subway. We walked through the camera together. I had no idea what the hell he was telling me. He was like, yeah, aren't you going to check to see the shutter number? And I was like, I don't fucking know what that means, man. Just give me the camera. But I'll walk you guys through exactly what that process would look like today. And there's really no reason to buy a camera new if you're using it for videography purposes because of this shutter number thing. But let's actually go through what it looks like. The total price for me was $458.99 US. I literally went to Facebook Marketplace and I just typed in Sony a6500. I don't believe they sell these new, so you have to do this if you want to get the same one as me. So you see it's a used market, right? You can grab this one here for $790. This one comes with some cool adapter. So maybe if you leave the adapter, you can get this for like 700 Canadian. 710 it looks like. I'm sure you can negotiate that down. This one here, $800, includes a lens. You could probably get this for like $600 realistically. Yeah, even with inflation, like this is a pretty cheap ass camera, all things considered. Things to watch out for, you just need to make sure, okay, you see this little gray bubble here? That's just the cover for the actual like sensor. You just need to make sure there are no scratches on the sensor. So the way that you do that is typically you just grab the camera and you like point it at either like something totally black or like something totally white. And then you just take a picture and you just like look through the picture to see if there's any smudges or scratches or something like that. But it's really not a big deal. I mean, I paid all cash. So I'd encourage anybody that's buying a camera for videography purposes, just don't do it new. There's no real point. I am going to show you a couple of new options that you can buy later. But yeah, in my case, no real point. I don't really recommend it. Okay, great. Let's talk a little bit about the lens on the camera. And this is probably one of the most important things aside from the lighting. So pick up my iPhone here again, then I zoom way in. See, I have this lens attached to my camera. And this is the Sigma 30mm f1.4. Now you're probably wondering, what the hell does all that shit mean? Like there's so many letters and numbers, I'm confused. And I was too. If I keep things really simple for you, 30 millimeters is just the focal length. So the bigger the focal length, the less warping on your face. And then the smaller the focal length, the more like wide angle lens, the more fisheye sort of effect. So 30 millimeter for the Sony a6500 to me is just like a good blend of like, it's compact and it's easy and it's affordable enough that I could like carry it with me anytime I want. And it also doesn't really, suffer from some of the downsides of the closer ones, which is a bunch of distortion and a bunch of warping. For the longest time, I used one that was much closer, Sigma 16mm f1.4. And then I just found that like it warped my face and I looked like really skinny and kind of weird and reptilian. Maybe I just look skinny and weird and reptilian, who knows? But ever since I switched over to this one, I don't know. I just like the way that I look more. I tend to get better comments. Things are just easier for me. So in general, you probably want something around 30 millimeters. If you go much longer than this, you have to set your camera far away, which makes your studio logistically difficult to set up. If you look at this, how far the camera away is, how far the camera is away, it's basically like I got my monitor over here and then like a couple more feet away, I got the camera, right? If you use one with a shorter focal length, you can actually just bring the monitor, like the camera directly in front of the monitor. Basically, the shorter the focal length is, the, obviously closer you can bring the camera, and the longer the focal length is, the further away you have to put the camera. So in my case, I like stuff that's around 30 millimeters. You also want something with a low f-stop. Remember earlier I said it was like a Sigma 30mm f1.4. The f1.4 just refers to how basically blurry the background gets for you. This is called bokeh. The f-stop is called the aperture. But the lower the f-stop is, the more bokeh you get. Bokeh is just like, if you guys notice, the plant to my right here, it's just kind of blurry in the background, right? So is the one on my left. If I have other stuff in the background, it would just blur a lot. And generally speaking, on YouTube, like the high-end, good quality, very famous YouTubers just tend to have like really blurry-ass backgrounds. So in order to get that blurry background, you need like a lens with a very low f-stop, usually something that's like f1.4 to maybe f2.4 or something like that is sufficient. I'll walk you guys through a bunch of different options that you can get later. In my specific setup, I wanted to use a Sigma. I used to use that Sigma 16mm f1.4. I found that it was warping me a lot. It was great for convenience because I could bring it really close to my face and just carry it in my pocket. But I now use the Sigma 30mm f1.4. It cost me about 370 Canadian dollars. If I just like look this up right now, right over here, and it looks like Google has a bunch of different options. This one's $369. It's for one called an X mount. We want one called an E mount. I feel like I had one here earlier. Oh, yes, this one here. Yeah, so this one here is Sigma 30mm f1.4 contemporary for Sony. You could just buy this today, have this shipped to your house. It's the exact same lens that I use, and it's compatible with the Sony a6500. So Yeah, in this case, I am buying this one new. The reason why I'm more down to buy lenses new as opposed to cameras new is because the lenses, like, use can actually scratch them and kind of screw them up. So I was going to buy a different lens quite a while ago for a slightly different kind of camera. And then the guy's like, no, the lens is good, lens is good. And I'm like, well, I actually brought my camera, so let's check and see if the lens is good. So I connected it and I noticed there was this big diagonal, basically scar across the lens. Guy must have scratched with his keys or something like that. So you can probably go cheaper than this. In my case, I did 369 CAD or 261.27 USD. But this is definitely like the thing you do not want to screw up, because this is the thing that is the most noticeable. If you don't get that nice blur in the background, it'll just kind of look really flat, just like you're, recording a video with your iPhone or something. And then if there's scratches or whatever, people are going to be able to notice. So my recommendation is, shell a little bit of money out for the lens. This is the thing that really matters. And I'll give you guys some camera options and stuff too. Okay, next up is the microphone. I consider this like one of the most important parts of the setup as well. I love how I'm now saying that for literally everything. Let me show you guys what this looks like. So as you see, I have this like little boom arm thing. And this boom arm, on it is mounted this microphone here. And this one is called the Samsung Q2U. It's a pretty solid microphone. I really like it. The reason I like it so much is because it's what's called unidirectional. And so if I go like, behind the mic and try and talk or something like that, the quality of the audio, well, the loudness of the audio will go way down. And so a lot of the time I have like construction and stuff like that. I live on a pretty busy street now. I'll have construction and stuff like that across the street, and people will have no idea that like that is occurring, because this is only getting the audio from a very small space in front of it. So there are a couple of alternatives you could use. You could use like a lapel mic. Personally, I find that this just adds too much friction. I much prefer just to be able to mount a microphone on the desk and then have that be okay. In terms of my specific setup, I care a lot about this because for maybe a month and a half, I used a really cheap, shitty microphone called a Fifine A6T, or Fifine. I don't know what the hell it's called. But anyway, it was like $50 off Amazon. I was like, ooh, it's got colors. Let's do it. And for that entire time period, you could hear every drop of saliva in my mouth while I was recording a YouTube video. It was freaking brutal. A lot of the people that are watching this channel right now probably know and can harken back to that time. But you actually had to like turn me way down and put me really far away in order for any of this to make sense. That didn't just have like a spiritual and cringe impact. That also had a monetary impact, because I noticed substantially lower watch times because the audio was so freaking annoying. So that decision, in hindsight, I'm glad I made that decision, because this made me a lot better with the audio. But that decision alone has probably cost me tens of thousands of dollars just in fewer watches, shittier ads, revenue, fewer people joining my communities and stuff like that. Today I use the Samsung Q2U with the desk mount. I should mention, just before I get into the actual product, my audio doesn't stop here. I use a special post-processing tool that I'll touch on later, where I basically just drag and drop my finished video recording with the audio into this tool, and then the tool just does like some loudness normalization and stuff like that. I consider this crucial. It's one of the reasons why everybody thinks that my audio is so sexy, and I have like podcast level stuff. I've even gotten now to the point where people are comparing this to ASMR, even though like, the purpose of this is not ASMR. But when you process the audio with this wonderful library, it just ends up with this nice silky smooth tone to it, which is pretty great. So let me actually run you guys through the Samsung Q2U. If you just go up here, again, I'm Canadian, so keep that in mind. If we go over here, this one is $143.86 Canadian. You can see that it even comes with a little stand. So you don't actually need this boom mount thing that I have. And in fact, I didn't use this for the longest time. I just used this little stand. It's not the most sturdy of the stands, so just be careful you don't knock it over while you're recording. But yeah, that's the Samsung Q2U. It kind of looks like a karaoke mic, right? That's basically what it is. It's just on top of this, I've put the included, this little included noise filter that you put on. It's pretty nice. And then, yeah, that's that. So I realize now I didn't link this. Let me actually just copy this link and then paste this here. And now y'all have access to it as well. 145 CAD here, a couple extra bucks, or $102.39 US. Pretty solid microphone, if I do say so myself. There are a couple of additionally better options that I'm going to cover when I get into like the higher budget stuff, but this is sufficient for me. I'm probably going to use this for like the next year or two. Okay, let's get into some recording software. And this is going to be a little bit tougher for me to show, but I'm just going to run you through what's going on my screen right now. As you guys see over here, I have, my face in full. Actually, you know what? I just realized I could totally just drag this and then show you guys with the screen share function. Perfect, let's do that. Okay, so I'm moving this over here, and perfect. Now you should be able to see what's going on. Okay, so what I'm using here is I'm using this platform called OBS, Open Broadcasting Software. And basically what this is doing is this allows you to set up different scenes based off of what you want coming into your production. And so this scene here I have called main. Main, if I kind of go back to the screen share section, if I click on this, my entire face just lights up and this is all that you see. If I click on screen share plus overlay, then you guys can kind of see there's this weird infinite mirror thing going on. And the reason why is because I'm screen recording a recording of a screen, which is a screen recording of a screen, which is a screen recording of a screen. If I could somehow like move this into the corner, you guys see how like what's actually popping up now is the left-hand side of my screen. Well, that's because this is screen recording my left-hand side of my screen. So if I move this back over here, and then if I show you guys what this looks like in practice, what I've done is I've queued up some hotkeys. So Command-Shift-1 and Command-Shift-2. I've queued up some hotkeys that allow me to quickly and effortlessly jump back and forth between this content. So what I can do is, and this is like kind of my hack, instead of me having to go into post or hire an editing team or anything like that, I actually just do all of these transitions myself with a quick little hotkey. Nobody notices because all I have to do is just click this button, and then it allows me just to save time having more engaging content, because a lot of the time, you want to jump between the talking head, then you want to jump between the screen share, talking head, screen share. I don't have to do that anymore in post. I don't have to like do all the editing bullshit. I just click one button and then voila, it's done. So that's pretty cool. What I've done, if I just use my little iPhone here, is I've just added a bunch of different scenes to this. Sorry, a bunch of different input methods. I have like my Sony a6500 as an input method, Mac OS screen capture as an input method, lavalier microphone. The purpose of this video is not to be like an exhaustive OBS guide, but just to show you guys that OBS is what I use. There are a variety of like very great tutorials online that show you how to use OBS. Again, my favorite feature is just the hotkey one because I don't have to deal with a lot of the bullshit that most other people have to. So yeah, that's personally what I use. Open broadcaster software. I do it with that full face talking head scene and a screen share scene, and I just switch between them with a hotkey. The whole idea is just cutting down time in post. Now, you don't actually have to do this. There are a variety of great tools out there that just manage all this shit for you. For instance, one that I've seen cropping up a lot more often now is called Screen Studio. If you have a Mac OS, this is like a professional automated screen recording platform that I'm definitely going to try. That automatically does cool things like it zooms in, it scrolls, it does a lot of math for you basically behind the scenes that you don't need to worry about. And you still get the same sort of screen share thing in the bottom left-hand corner. There's another one called TV, which is blowing up right now as well. Same vibe. You get to record like a talking head overlay thing, and then you have like a couple of cool effects which increase the perceived production quality. I'm probably going to be screwing around with these in the future. I think my next video I'll probably do with the Screen Studio just to see how it goes. If it's better, I'll update all of the descriptions in this video to show you guys and point to that new resource. I'll do the same thing with and stuff like that. But I want you to know the recording software that you use isn't actually as important. It's just like the way that you set it up. So conceptually, just try and do as much of your production live during the recording. Versus like in post, because post just stands for editing, if you guys are unaware. Post is where the vast majority of the time sink in YouTube tends to come from. If you like those super high quality, very refined, fast edited videos, you're going to have to spend a lot of time in order to create one. And that's personally why I've set up every aspect of my recording and my production pipeline to avoid that wherever possible. Anyway, mine's free. A couple of these other ones might cost money, but mine is zero cost, and that's why I like it. Next, let's cover some post-production software. Basically what I do is I will run my whole, I'll finish the whole clip basically, and then I will export it through Premiere Pro, and then I'll just drag and drop that clip into a software platform called Ophonic. Ophonic just uses AI to adjust your reverb, your echo, and your EQ to achieve very high production value results for very, very little money. It was shown to me by one of my community members in Make Money with Make called Stuart White, and I'm forever thankful for that. He was trying to automate his podcast editing, I believe. And as a result, I basically got to use this amazing tool, which just saves me tons of time and energy. Let me show you guys what this actually looks like. They call it an AI sound engineer for podcasts, but generally, you have a couple different things here that matter. The first is an intelligent leveler. Basically, a lot of the time you'll have multiple speakers on a panel, or you'll be further away from the microphone or closer. You probably won't be able to hear the difference there because I'm going to use Ophonic to edit this. But what this will do is it'll automatically bring up the levels of your audio using AI based on, the average audio gain or whatever in segment to segment. You don't have to do anything except for just drag and drop your clip in order to have this done for you. Noise and reverb reduction. This is huge. There's a lot of these like fast changing reverb noises, you know, noises sort of bouncing off my wall. It's coming back. It's bouncing off the fabric, bouncing off my monitor. This just eliminates that, makes it a lot cleaner. There's some filtering and auto EQ. A lot of the time you get this issue with microphones called sibilance, which is where you go over and over and over again. And then, or like p or t. These are plosives or frictives, I believe, respectively. And they just make like a big bump on the mic, and you just like kind of hear it, and it's just very uncomfortable and it's annoying. What Auphonic does, it just removes all of that for you. And so I don't actually need as high quality of an audio setup as most other people have to achieve substantially higher results, because I just use AI to do all that shit for me. You can do a couple other things. One thing that I use it to do automatic show notes. So this just has a little integration with Whisper, OpenAI model that takes the audio that I feed into the clip, it transcribes it, then it uses it to generate chapter headings, which I then just copy and paste into YouTube. This is probably like the quickest and easiest way that I've personally found to do this. And then the really cool part is, all you need to do is just drag and drop this here. When you're done, you'll get like your finished production here. And I don't actually remember which clip is which. I think Epify is the most recent one that I've done before this. Or it might have just been a test that I ran for 7 minutes.
Hey there, this is a complete beginner's guide to Apify. I and many other people
have actually get to see the before and the after. So they have the ability to listen to the input and the output and just compare the two, which is freaking sick. So you can like see how much better it is now that you use Auphonic. Anyway, I'm not affiliated with these guys at all. I just really like their software platform, and I encourage anybody here that wants higher quality audio to give it a try on your own. Just deals with all of the bullshit that I do not have the time or wherewithal to deal with. It just allows me to not have to hire an editor. I just get to do all this stuff myself. And it only costs $29 a month USD for my plan. You can actually spend less money for a smaller plan if you want to. Although I think if you're wanting to recreate my YouTube setup and stuff like that, you'll probably want to get the $29 one as well. Okay, great. Now let's actually do a little bit of math here. There's actually one thing I still need to add, which I forgot about, called a capture card. But anyway, let's just do a little bit of math on this after I do the capture card thing. And then I'm just going to save this, and I'm just going to link it down at the bottom of the video. So you guys are just going to have access to this resource anytime that you want. You could use this as like a cheat sheet. You could, I don't know, you could leave comments on this for other people. You could do whatever you want with this. This is just like your free little thing. I'm not going to take your email address for this or anything. No gatekeeping, just take the whole thing. So there's one more thing that I need to cover here, and I'm just going to cover it using my my little iPhone. In order to connect that camera to this computer, what you need is you need something called a capture card. Now, a capture card is just a little device. Let me just close this and see if I can grab it. It's a very, very little device. And all it does, I also have this, which just allows me to connect like a bunch of things to, I don't know, it's like a little USB hub. But the capture card is just a little device that basically just screen records your camera the whole time. It's probably the simplest way that I've found to demonstrate it. If you don't have one of these, you're not going to be able to connect your super high quality mirrorless or DSLR to your computer. I mean, there are like a couple of like hacky workarounds with software, but you're not going to be able to get like the good quality, like, I have really sexy, tasteful quality over here. And I think with a capture card, I think it'd be like downsampled to 720, or without a capture card, it'd be 720 or something like that. So anyway, it's just like a $20 little thing that you have to buy in order to make all this stuff work. And I realize now that means I'm going to have to update the title of the video. That's really funny. But whatever, fuck it. So let me show you guys exactly what that would look like and some options for you here. Set over to capture card. What you want is you just want like, in my case, I wanted a 4K capture card. So as you see, there are a variety of like pretty expensive options. This one's 109 Canadian, which come out to like maybe 75, 80 US dollars. This is the most popular one called Camlink. This is what basically all the big boys use. I'm not using a big boy Camlink at all. I'm using some much cheaper one that I found here for like 20 bucks or something. I think I'm using this one here. I believe it's this one. I may be mistaken, but oh yeah, sorry, this one here for $20. Yeah, 4K 1080p. So, feel free to just get whatever capture card you want. This is going to cost something like another $13 or something like that US. I'm going to update the video title and stuff like that to reflect it. Maybe I have to reshoot my intro, probably. Is what it is. And you can see the variety of different use cases for this. There's like the Nintendo Switch 4K pass-through. There's the Elgato. This is like the really, really big dick one. I'm going to leave it at that, but yeah, let's just call this $13. Let's update this to 19. With that capture card, we've now completed our stack. Our lights were $84.28. Our Sony a6500 was $458.99. Our lens was $261.27. Our microphone was $102.39. And then the capture card is going to be somewhere around $13 to $15. OBS is free. And then we spend $29 a month on Ophonic. My whole setup is down to $919.54 for basically like professional YouTube quality. Since I've made over $500,000 with this in profit, I have basically 500x'd my return on this investment. I don't think that this is like the standard outcome for everybody that tries doing YouTube, but I think you can at least 1x your return or basically write this off pretty quickly within the first couple of months, so long as you're good about the content, you're actually providing value, and so on and so forth. So I wouldn't actually worry too much about that. What I want to do next is just give you guys some budget options that you guys can use, even if you don't feel like you're at the point where you can commit all this money to the same setup as I. What I wanted to do is I wanted to give you like a couple of different options at varying levels of your budget to ensure that, you know, whatever stage you're in, whatever country you live in with a higher or lower cost of living, basically wherever you're starting, you can still get started on YouTube with like pretty good quality, and nobody's going to hold the quality against you. The quality will never be a reason why you can't grow. Okay, so the very first option here is the $150 option. This costs $150 plus $29 a month for Ophonic. The first thing you're going to do is you're going to get an LED video light kit. That LED video light kit is going to be something like this. Doesn't have to be the exact same thing. I use this obviously, and I could have cut an extra $10 off or whatever with the coupon, but I'm not going to include that in the cost savings. Basically, you get one of these puppies, and then one of these becomes your key light, and you just bring that closer and you brighten that up because this is dimmable. Then the other one just ends up being your fill light, and you just make it further away and then you soften it. And now you actually have professional-ish lighting for like $48 frickin', which is sweet. In terms of your camera, you just use your mobile phone. So just like I'm using my iPhone over here, although this is not ideal, just use whatever your mobile phone is and then mount it, or I don't know, just like stand it up or something like that. I don't know, maybe something like this, on like a bookshelf or something of that nature, and then just stream that, you know, like before you start recording, go click the record button, put that on your shelf or whatever, double check to make sure it's pointed in the right place and stuff like that, and then you're okay. The next thing you want is you want a Samsung Q2U. Samsung Q2U is that microphone that I recommended to you guys. It's one of the cheapest and highest quality microphones here. You guys can get this for a little over $100 US, and this is where the bulk of the spend is going to come from. And the fourth thing you're going to want is Ophonic. Ophonic is just going to be the place that you drag and drop your footage into after you're done. You can get all of this for $150 in total for the capital investment, plus $29 a month recurring investment. So that's setup number one. If you use that setup, your video is not going to look like mine. Like, you're not going to have a cool background blur, for instance. I think you're going to have a substantially less dynamic range on the light. Like, the whites and the blacks will be a little bit closer together, so it's just not going to look as high quality. But I want you to know that's okay. I have seen a bunch of people start YouTube with the same approach that I have with a mobile phone and then still manage to scale to several thousand subscribers in just a few months. This is not like the thing that will stop you from growth. The second is sort of like a mid-level. Maybe like a low mid-level. If this is like low, this will be like low to mid. This will be mid. And then I'm just going to call this high, even though, to be honest, you can go way higher than this. You are still going to get the LED video light kit here for $48. But then on top of that, what you're going to do is you're going to get a Canon EOS Rebel T3i, and that's going to be your camera, okay? So as I mentioned before, that camera is not actually as important as the lens. The lens is definitely substantially more important of an investment. Your camera is just like a permissive thing. Like, you need a camera that can connect to one of these high quality lenses to get a bunch of light in there. So we're just going to get an older camera, this one called a Canon EOS Rebel T3i. And this is going to be able to hook up to a much higher quality lens. This higher quality lens, well, maybe not a much higher quality lens, but with this lens, with this camera, we're going to use a Canon 24mm f2.8. The f-stop is pretty high, so you're not going to get as much blur, but it's still going to be sufficient blur that like people will be able to notice there's a distinction between the foreground and the background, and that's going to make your productions look higher quality. I believe I found this. Okay, I'm actually just going to go on Facebook Marketplace again, see if I could find one of these. I think it's the T3 or the 600D. Yeah, as you guys can see, I mean, this is like, I don't know, 13, 14, 15 years old or something now. So the cameras, you can buy them for super cheap. You could buy them for even cheaper. I don't know how I feel about this one, but I don't know. That might be perfectly sufficient. You know, maybe go meet the guy, you buy it for $70 American. This one's $260. Looks like it comes with a nice carrying case and everything like that. Also comes with a lens. I don't personally think this lens is sufficient. But, you know, I don't know, maybe you buy that and you try a shoot and it ends up working anyway. And you're like, hell yeah. As you can see, tons of different options here. $300 camera with case with lens, $260. If you don't want to do that, I think they might still sell these. I'm not 100% sure though. I don't know. So let's give it a look. Yeah, no, they don't sell the same type anymore. What they do is they sell like some substantially better type here for 600 Canadian dollars, which comes out to like 450 US. So I would definitely encourage you guys to give this a go. Look on Facebook Marketplace, grab yourself a Canon EOS Rebel T3i, and then get yourself a Canon 24mm f2.8. So I'm just going to Google this one that's 179. You know, these aren't the same ones. But yeah, just get yourself a Canon 24mm f1.8. Let's check out if this is available on Amazon. Looks like it is 180 Canadian dollars, so about 130, whatever my math is over here. You'll probably be able to find some cheaper options. Samsung QTU as well, Ophonic for the audio. Total cost for this one's gonna be 460 plus 29 bucks a month. You are gonna have to have a capture card actually, so let me just add this here as well. We'll go capture card, and then why don't I just use one of these capture cards that I saw before. You are gonna basically need a capture card anytime that you get yourself a DSLR or mirrorless. So let's go capture card here. And then I'm going to go capture card down here too. Just so nobody yells at me later. I think collectively this was 9 or 19. Great. This is going to give you, as I mentioned, basically the same sort of content quality to me. It's just going to be a tiny bit less blurry. The vast majority of people on YouTube watch stuff at 1080p anyway. Most people don't like upscale me to 4K or click on the 4K option because there's no real need to watch this at 4K. It's not like you see something that you don't in 1080. So, you know, at the 1080p level of resolution, the vast majority of people aren't really going to be able to notice that big of a difference. You'll be able to get away with this for just 460 bucks. The next option up was the option that I talked about with you guys here, where, you know, I have my Sony a6500, Sigma 30mm, Samsung Q2, Ophonic capture card, LED light kit, and softbox. As mentioned, you can also get this cheaper than the 84 bucks, but I'm just going to leave it and say that this comes out to 919. And then the last option here is sort of like your high-end option. And let me just update this so that it contains the capture card cost as well. Yeah, so basically, if I just go up here, kind of drag this around, this high-end one, the reason why it's so high-end is because of this camera that I'm going to be using, that you can use, called the Sony a7 III. This camera, I guarantee, like, I would consider this mad overkill. You get a lot of like videography nerds in the comments probably being like, no, actually, it's not even that good of a camera. But this Sony a7 III is freaking, it's crazy powerful, super overkill. If you're doing the sorts of videos that I'm doing, like if you're not like a whole video production company, this is more than enough for you. You can buy it for $1,898 Canadian new, so about $1,300 or $1,400 or so. Or if you go on Facebook and you pump in Sony a7 III, and you may have used different keywords, so you could use a7 III or a7 like I, same thing. You can get it for substantially cheaper. This one's for 1,200 Canadian, which is like, I don't know, 800 or so American dollars. And from this, you just use the exact same lens that I was using before, but your content quality is going to be even higher, which is pretty nice. Yeah, you see all these like photography and videography guys are like, this is the beginner's camera. It's not a beginner's camera, man. You could make well over $500,000 off of YouTube in your first 10 months posting very inconsistently with this camera. So yeah, I said $1,059 here, which is sort of like a middle ground between the one that you could buy for new and then the one that you could buy for used. Then you add the Sigma 30mm f1.4, that's my lens. It'll work with the Sony a7 III just like it works with the a6500. And then for the microphone, we're gonna get a slightly different quality microphone. We're gonna get one called the Shure SM7DB. I realized I didn't update this price. This is actually gonna be more money. But the Shure is one of probably the best quality microphones currently available on the market for the purposes of what we want, which is, you know, some sort of talking head or recorded video like this. You can buy it with this boom arm. Imagine if you guys, you know, if I had a boom arm here, it would go way up and then it would like loop over. You know, you'd have to make it inconspicuous. It kind of depends on your recording setup. If I have a boom arm that's overhead and then my camera's sort of situated a little bit higher, like most people are going to be able to see the boom arm, which they don't want. So I don't know if I'd necessarily always buy said boom arm. But you can definitely buy the microphone itself for $450 US, and it's a great damn microphone. It's like a very, very good microphone. So I'm just going to do the math on this and go 84 times 1,059, 261, 449, 13. That's $1,866 plus $29 per month for Ophonic. And as you guys can see, I'm using Ophonic in every single video shoot, no matter what. It's just that good. So yeah, that's more or less the budget options that I have available for you, or the options I have available for you at different levels of budget. That last one definitely is not a budget option. So you can see, you still don't have to break the bank for this. You can invest under $2,000 and have like basically a world-class setup that everybody will think that you're like a massive YouTuber for, even if you start with 1 subscriber. I'm not saying that that's the right approach necessarily. You should definitely just get whatever doesn't intimidate you on this list that is sufficient for your needs, and then just produce a bunch of content. But as you see, it's really nowhere near as expensive as most people make it out to be. As long as you're smart about the lighting and stuff like that, you'll be fine. Okay, cool. Now, what I want to do next is I want to cover my actual production flow from start to finish, because I think equipment is one thing, and equipment's nice and all, and we love equipment and fantastic. But you also want to see how I use this equipment in order to actually create a whole video. So I'm going to walk you guys through exactly what I do start to finish right now, so you guys have everything that you need to basically copy and paste my own recording setup, maybe make some iterations on it, maybe make it even better. So the very first thing I'll do during my production flow is I'll basically write up an outline, just like this one. So in my case, I wrote this in Whimsical. Whimsical is just a visual flowchart software platform that allows me to very quickly and easily whip up one of these little modules and then just copy and paste it a bunch of times, fill it with a bunch of text. I've experimented with a variety of different platforms for this. Whimsical is not the only one that you could use. I've used Gamma, I've used Google Slides, I've used PowerPoint, I've used like 15 or 20 different ones, to be honest. I basically just vary this every now and then because I get bored of it. But anyway, I'll start with an outline like this one, okay? Then what I'll do is I will open up OBS, I'll turn on all my lights, and then I'll test my microphone. The cool thing about OBS is, if we just grab my iPhone, you see how every time I talk into this, my lavalier microphone section goes up, right? Well, that's great. That's basically what I want. So I just want to make sure the microphone works. What I'll typically do is I'll record a test video, and then I'll just play it back and listen to it. After I'm done with that, I will begin recording, and then I'll just say my hook. I've recently started using Proof, Promise, Plan. This is different from what I was doing before, but this is like a 3-step hook methodology where you give people some sort of proof that you are worth listening to, you're worthy of their attention. So usually you have to say something like, I made $500,000 in profit off of YouTube in the last year. Then you need to give people a promise. In this video, I'm going to show you guys how to do X, Y, and Z. Then you have to give people a plan. So we're going to start with this. We're going to do that. We're going to do that. If you guys think back to the intro of the video, that's basically exactly what I showed you guys, right? This has multiplied my engagement. I didn't really think it was all that powerful or important before, but ever since I started using Proof, Promise, Plan, shit has just gone pretty crazy. So I don't know if Alex Hormozy was the first one to talk about Proof, Promise, Plan or who exactly it was, but this works really, really well with video content. I'd highly encourage you guys to do it. It's sort of like the most salesy that I get, as you guys could tell throughout my clips. Then I will alternate between scenes as I explain my material. I think I wrote alternative between scenes. So I'll alternate between scenes as I explain my material. I'll go talking head like I'm doing right now. Then I'll go back down to video share as I'm doing right now. After I'm done, I will export the recording. So I will click stop recording, and then I'll just drag and drop it into a Premiere Pro template that I've developed for this purpose. Let me show you guys what that looks like. I pop open Premiere Pro. Okay, so how do I actually go about editing a video? Let me show you what that looks like. First things first, I'm gonna go grab my video file, and I just wanna grab like an old one that I did that has most of my content. Okay, cool, let's do this. So first things first, I drag and drop a video in. I'll usually just like go over my old content in this template. Once I'm done with that, I will delete everything else. If I zoom way in here, you'll now see that there are a couple of components to this that are just sort of templated, and they're in like other tracks. So V2 is like my main track. I have a couple in V4, V5, blah, blah, blah. One that I have is I have this little like animation thing that happens at the beginning. I just think it looks cool. Might not, who knows? I'll vary it eventually. And then I have me smiling like a dumb shit just to make sure that my camera works. Then I also have, I have a little like title section here, which is just a template. And what I do is I take a screenshot of something that's relevant to the video, and I stick it in there. So this one was for Apify, I believe, but let me just show you guys what that looks like in my case. Yeah, no, let's do this. It's not gonna look the best, but screw it. Then I'm gonna drag the screenshot stick it on top of the section. And now I'm just going to resize it to like 250 or something, maybe 275. There you go. And now, you know, I'm talking or whatever, and then voila, I have my little animation screenshot thing going on. And I find that this is just like a very simple and easy way to template out most of my work. I then have gotten the habit of adding a bunch of these titles that I could just screw around with whenever I want. So these are just a bunch of titles for the last video that I recorded, which is pretty sweet. And then I have the last title, which is sort of like the title of the video. And this was just called Beginner's Guide to Appify. So what I'll do is I'll just jump in here and then I don't really know what I want to call this, YouTube video setup for little money. That looks good to me. And this just has all the animation and everything like that I want. Okay, great. So after I'm done with this, basically what I do, I basically templated out the vast majority of the video, right? Like obviously I have these titles here in the middle, but it's not super relevant to me. What I'll do after is I will go through the audio recording. I don't actually know where the hell is the audio recording. Oh, geez. I don't think I actually imported the audio recording. Let me import this one more time. Yeah, weird. I don't know why this isn't getting my audio. I'm pretty sure I recorded audio on this. And Appify just allowed, yeah, so let me just, sometimes I have to drag this thing here first. And then after I drag this in, and maybe one of the video editors here could tell me why that wasn't working. But anywho, eventually I get to the point where like I obviously start my video, right? So I go through the audio waveform, instantly cut out the vast majority of it.
Hey there, this is a complete
and then
beginner's guide to
basically
Appify.
the beginning of my video, which is sweet. I think when I did that, I might have eliminated one of the little effects that I usually use, unfortunately. Yeah, there you go. I did, unfortunately. So I'm just going to have to go back and do that one more time. Good. We'll cut this out now. And I'll just drag that puppy in.
Hey there, this is a complete beginner's guide to Appify. I and many other people.
And then I basically just go through, and sometimes I screw up. Sometimes when I screw up, they're like major screw ups. So I have like big gaps in between my stuff here. It's like 3 or 4 minutes. And it's just me being like, shit, what the hell was I supposed to do for that again? And then, I'll figure it out. I'll solve the problem and then I'll go back to the recording. This, doesn't happen very often for like video content like this where I'm just talking a lot. And as you can see, I think I screwed up like, I don't actually know if this counts because I was just transitioning to a new scene, but I don't know, like once, twice, 3 times, maybe 4 times in this like hour-long clip. But on content that tends to be more build heavy, I can screw up substantially more. So what I'll do is I'll just go through this and I'll find the periods where like I'm obviously not doing anything. So as you see here, I'm like setting up a bundle or a module. Something that isn't hyper relevant to, I don't want everybody just to watch me in silence set this up for a minute. So I'll actually go through and I'll just cut all that out. And then I'll just go through the rest of it and just do the same thing. I'll just quickly tab over and just see, like what's going on here? Why wasn't I saying anything? Oh, it looks like I was saying something. Maybe it was just kind of quiet. Then I'll go through the other silent sections. Yeah, and it looks like I think something happened with my video here. So it had to, I don't know, it got shut off. So, for instance, I'd cut this out completely. And in this way, I'm spending as minimal time editing as humanly possible because I'm just using the waveform. And the waveform sort of tells me when I need to start, when I need to stop. This usually takes me like 2 or 3 minutes. And then by the time that I'm done, I basically have the full video laid out. All I do after that is I go through the transitions and I just make sure they don't look weird because sometimes when I do these cuts, they just look kind of weird and off-putting. So if they do, I have to zoom way in and then I have to like make finer cuts to this as necessary. But again, still saves a bunch of time relative to what most people do, right? Which is they like actually go through literally every minute of their entire recording, which I personally think is bonkers. I'd never be able to do that. Especially, because I record like hour-long videos. And then I will stick this whole thing together. I'm just going to assume that, I went through and I verify that everything works. I'll try and time this to actors. Tasks, which I actually perfectly did time this to. I'll time any titles or whatever to the specific parts where I talk about it. And then voila, that's more or less it. I can usually be in and out and done with the editing in like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes or so. You know, I'm not going to say this is the most studious and robust of approaches, because I've definitely screwed up in the past where I've done this approach and then like I didn't realize, but I cut out a giant section that was important for the context of the video. A bunch of people are like, Nick, where's this section? You said you were going to talk about this, but you didn't. I'm like, shit. Or they've said stuff like, you know, Nick, there's like a 3-minute period where you're just staring off into space. And I'm like, crap. But I'll be real. I don't care about that anywhere near as much as most other people do. The most important thing to me is just producing the content consistently for a long period of time. And me having this very low friction setup just enables me to do that. If this were any bigger a part of my life than it already is, I think I'd eventually grow sick of it and stop. But it's still such a small part that like I can actually enjoy what I'm doing and so on and so forth. So yeah, that's where I'm at with that. In terms of the rest of my production setup, basically what I'll do after this is I'll do a cringy thumbnail pose for a minute or so at the end of my video, like over and over and over again. And then I'll just screenshot that. And then I'll create a template in Canva, which I'll show you guys in a second. And then what I do is I edit this thumbnail with the new stuff from my screenshots. Anyway, yeah. And then that's more or less my editing flow. And then when I actually do the posting on YouTube, what I'll do is I'll spend a lot of time trying to figure out like a really good title. And the reason why is because titles are disproportionately important on YouTube. Like if I have a super nice, short, punchy title, it'll tend to perform a lot better than ones that don't. So what I'll do is I'll run my title through a title checker platform. So I personally just use this one, capitalize my title. I enter in my YouTube setup under like $919 plus microphone, mic, camera, lens, something like that. And I'll just make sure that it doesn't do that. See there how it like cut off? I don't want it to cut off. Looks like it cuts off right around 50, 60 or so. I don't want it to cut off. I've done tests on this, and when they cut off, I tend to just do a lot worse. So I basically try and compress my title down until it's just as efficient as humanly possible. And then it just fits on that one line, which is really important to me. And then when I actually do the uploading itself, I'll jump into my YouTube Studio. I will get the output of the Ophonic. I'll click create, click upload videos, drag and drop it here. Then in terms of like the actual editing, it's pretty straightforward. Ophonic outputs a big audio file for me, which is nice. So I actually have, a big chapter heading file for me. So I'm going to pretend that this is a video that I'm editing right now. While it's uploading, I'll actually go through, I'll upload the thumbnail, which you can do so down here. I'll typically upload 3 variants. So in Canva, I'll make a couple variants and then test to see which one works the best. So it looks like this one works the best. And I'm getting a lot better at figuring out what thumbnails work the best and which ones don't. Typically the ones that have some sort of dollar value equivalent. So in my case, I've made over $200,000 with Apify. I've been selling Apify services myself. I've been building systems with Apify for my own businesses. And I've taught some people, I've done some consulting now, show people how to use Apify. So when I have dollar signs in the thumbnail like this, I tend to perform disproportionately better. And then in this case, I've also found when I use the logo of the service that I'm promoting, it tends to do really well too. So I was just running another test on this to make sure I was right. I had a dollar value figure here, then I had multiple variants. I had a couple without dollar value figures. One with the dollar value and no logo, one with the dollar value and logo, and then one without the dollar value and the logo. And obviously the one that had both of these performed the best. So, you know, this is just a more general rule of life. Always be testing. Once I'm done with that, I'll just paste in my whole thing from a template. And then I have the chapter headings over here, which is pretty nice. I didn't do this for the longest time, but I found that when I add chapter headings, I typically have higher watch time. And then for tags and stuff, I have some software platform here called TubeBuddy, I believe it's called. I don't personally really use it. I just paid for it once to allow me to bulk edit all of the descriptions of my videos. I just like haven't taken it off. But it has like some, I don't know, tag keyword explorer. I don't use any of that. I just copy and paste the tags from the previous video into the next ones. So I like to keep things as simple as possible. I think you guys will notice that I don't really like optimize the hell out of every specific step. I used to back when I was a lot smaller on YouTube and I think a lot poorer as well. And what I found is like optimization, like efficiency is not effectiveness. Efficiency is like how well you are at one particular tiny thing, but effectiveness is like how good you are across the entire stack. And what I found is if you spend too much time optimizing one particular tiny little component, you tend to be more efficient in that component, but you don't tend to be more effective. My flow right now, which spends a minimal amount of time on editing, minimal amount of time on production, aside from a couple of little production value hacks like Ophonic and stuff like that, my flow right now is very effective. I wouldn't consider it super efficient, but I consider it super effective. And that's really what I want, right? Like how many of these high quality videos can I churn out in a certain unit time? A fair number. And every time I do, I get a certain number of subscribers from that video in perpetuity. I get a certain amount of money coming into my communities and so on and so forth. So that's my mindset there. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. This video is going to be a little bit different because I'm going to have to grab the export file from my iPhone, which is actually still recording. I'll probably stop that right now. But, aside from that, this is more or less what I do with every single YouTube video. If you guys have any questions about how I did this, feel free to drop them down below. If you're thinking of starting a YouTube channel of your own and you guys wanted some feedback or maybe a roast or something like that, then yeah, just leave me a comment. I'm more than happy to do that for you. I get most of my ideas from my audience at this point. So if you have anything else that you guys want me to talk about, feel free. Just let me know. I think this video is specifically an ask from somebody about 4 weeks ago that I'm finally getting around to. And if you guys could do me a big solid, like, subscribe, do all that fun YouTube stuff to bump me up in the algo, I'll catch you all on the next one. Cheers.